Let's talk about the Intelligence Agency 2030 projections. There's a 140-page report that's been put out by the National Intelligence Council. It reflects the estimations of 16 U.S. intelligence agencies, and what it hopes to predict is what can we expect to happen by 2030 in this country? In other words, in terms of geopolitics and technology security, etc., in the next 18 years, what do we think will happen? And there's a lot of interesting stuff in here and some that is missing, so I'll go through some of it. One of the major trends that intelligence agencies seem to agree on is that in the next 18 years, we're going to see an end to U.S. global dominance, and we're going to see rising power of individuals against states, as well as a rising middle class whose demands challenge government. Interesting. And we're also going to look at some water, food, and energy shortages. All reasonable, although it's interesting, this idea of increasing power of individuals against states. What will bring that on? Because we've been covering for so long the increased unilateral power of states to do whatever they want with the communications, property, and lives of individuals.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, these are just projections. It's hard to really, it's all just speculation.
The report also indicates and predicts a definitive shift of economic power to the east and south, away from the north and west. So that is
a trend that it seems to be pretty accurate.
Absolutely. And we see already the U.S., European, and Japanese share of global income is projected to fall from 56% to less than 50% by 2030. So that 7+% is going to be picked up somewhere. World population projected to get to 8.3 billion from 7.1 billion today. Okay. Also, when we look at urban living, middle classes are expected to flock to cities, increasing the world urban population from about 50% to 60%. In the next 18 years, we will have 60% of people living in some kind of city. Interesting.
Yeah, well, I think China and India are great examples of that. I mean, that's what happens. Those are much older countries, much older civilizations. These cities get bigger. That's where all the development is. That's where the jobs are. That's where the growth is. So that's what happens.
References to climate change are also included here. Changes in temperature and precipitation patterns are happening faster than expected, according to researchers. And when the section on climate change was updated, new figures showed that the rate of change was even greater than simply 18 months before when they started this measurement process. The one thing that isn't mentioned here, which I think is hard to really estimate because we don't really know how to predict it, is this idea, and I know the term is cliche, of a technological singularity, which a lot of different people talk about in different ways, right? The idea that we may be on the verge of major breakthroughs when it comes to energy, computing, technology, potentially space travel, which are going to completely throw this out of whack because a lot of these projections don't take into consideration the possibility of significantly accelerated development when it comes to technology, science, and so on. What's your thought on that, Natan? I mean, it is hard to quantify it, which may be why it's not here, but a lot of people emailing me about that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that in the next 10 years, we'll probably see a move towards alternative energy in a much more dramatic way than we've seen. And the reason why we haven't seen it is because of so much special interests on the oil and natural gas side, et cetera.
Right.
But, and that's going to change the whole climate change debate. And I think we'll be able to do something more dramatic in the next 20 to 30 years than what's being projected.
Possibly so.
Could be.